Okay, yeah, we're recording, I think. Why? Okay, I thought it was frozen. Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I believe, bro, we're on episode 212, 211 or 12, and it was just Eid like last week. So, how was your Eid, bro? Okay. When you say family, how much of your family, what kind of family?
None of my family, all of my in-laws.
With your in-laws?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, my family wasn't here. They were in Tunisia, so they spent it there.
Okay.
So I thought,
Bro, the best Eid, I've only done this twice in my life, okay? The best Eid is family Eid. When I say Eid, I mean family Eid, I mean like not just with like parents, siblings or whatever, but like with your uncles and aunts, and it's just like overflowing amount of family. Like
oh,
that's so good, bro.
so good, so good. Do you think you can recreate that vibe for your family? You'll have to have a big family, won't you?
Nope.
Nope.
There's no way of doing that, because family is family, and
Yeah.
it needs to be a large amount as well. Like, so one time I did it was in France. I went to France to visit my uncle, and it was Eid. And I have two uncles in France. One has no kids, and one has, I want to say, six kids. Yeah, I think three sons and three daughters, and all of his kids have kids. So the house, he's got a pretty big house, and they all came to his house, and it was just a lot
Yeah.
of people, bro, and all my cousins, and then their husbands or whatever, and there's a lot of people, there's a lot of kids, and it was great. I had a nice argument with one of them actually. It was fun in French, of
Nice.
course. Flexing my
Oh,
French.
je ne suis pas d'accord.
No, je suis pas d'accord. Exactly. You're good, bro. That's
Exactly.
good.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
Although if you're pro, you have to take the ne out. Like, obviously, formally, you should put ne, but real French people, they say je suis pas d'accord. Or if you're on your
Oh
next level, you
no.
say je suis pas d'accord. But anyway,
Oh.
um, so that was great, bro. That was great. You know what I argued with him about? Yeah. It's quite,
Go on.
it's not embarrassing, but it's just, it's a bit insensitive. I think now that I think about it, this was probably like 10 years ago. Yeah. I think it was a bit insensitive. So obviously he's actually Moroccan. And I was just telling him like, how can he live in France? Like he's dead. Like I was like, your daughters, yeah, when they reach the age, and
Yeah.
I believe one of his daughters was already that age probably. And I was like, your
Yeah.
daughters can't even wear hijab, even if they want to and you want them to and everything, they still can't wear it in school. I'm like, that's dead. How can you live here? I'm like, you're just like madlul in this country. And
Wow.
he's like, well, it's better than Morocco in this way and this way and this way. I'm like, you don't know what you're on about. He's like trying to tell me, yeah, that Morocco's bad because in one hotel in like Agadir, they were selling pork. And I'm like, pork's
Wow.
the least of your problems in Morocco, bro. I'm like, what about the drugs everywhere? What about the,
Okay.
حكم بغير ما أنزل الله? What about all this? But anyway, so I was a bit maybe insensitive, but it's still true, obviously. But you just gotta be careful about it because,
you hit him with the حكم بما أنزل الله, bro. Very
oh,
good setup anyway.
well, you can, yeah,
Yeah, I know, but like generally
yeah,
because
you
it's
can.
such a common thing. It's such a common thing. It's not even to
I don't know
compete
if
to
I said
compare
that
that with.
specifically to him. I'm not sure,
That's
but
such a teenage thing to say.
the worst thing is, I think his wife, Yanni, my cousin, she doesn't even wear hijab, so
Oh, right.
that made it more insensitive, actually. I mean, but it's true. But
Okay.
I mean, honestly, bro, maybe if his wife was in Morocco or Algeria, maybe she would be wearing it. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, the sad thing is that uncle of mine, he memorized the Quran. Him and his wife, they're very religious, mashallah, very practicing. But you've got to admit, like, just the fact that they were raised in France. Out of his six kids, I think only one of them prays, bro. Right? So Allah yahdihum. Maybe some of them pray now, I don't know. But that's obviously it's a mixture. It's like probably he was very busy when they were growing up, and he didn't realize how tight of a kind of guidance he had to give them and stuff like that. All the usual stuff of immigrants, right? But that's pretty sad, isn't it? And you've got to say, I mean, it wouldn't be. I don't want to say they'd definitely all be praying if they were in whatever Algeria, but it would have been better, probably, isn't it? But anyway, it's just the fact that, like, even if you're out beyond all the struggle and the propaganda and the culture against, hijab and dressing modestly and properly, even if your daughter gets beyond that and she wants to dress properly, she can't in school in France or in university or whatever. Even in the workplace, there's a strong like pressure against it, innit? So, yeah, that's tough. But anyway, that's what I was arguing with him about on Eid. It was fun, bro. We were enjoying it though.
Always in there. Always when family gets together.
Yeah,
Sparks
exactly.
fly.
Exactly, and it's different to like just being with your friends, where it's like, yeah, you all agree on stuff, and it's like just like you just crack like gin and marriage jokes,
Yeah, I can't think of many times that I've ever spent Eid with friends. Maybe once or twice, but
Don't you?
I
Because
can't
what I
even
usually
recall.
have is like a mixture. So like day one would be mostly family, and then day two would be like friends. I would definitely like go and see friends second day or something.
I think the last ever since I got married, I haven't really had friends. I mean, no,
Really, yeah.
I probably haven't. I haven't had anyone to
That
go out with
that
or do
sounded
anything
so
with.
like Hollywood accent.
I know.
I didn't
I
have
mean,
friends.
I've started going out a bit more now. Started
Yeah.
dabbling with the locals again. Sometimes,
Hmm.
yeah, it kind of happened towards the end of Ramadan because I
Okay.
think some old friends were meeting up again for coffee and stuff at night. So I'd kind of put the kids to
Right.
bed, and it'd be like 11 o'clock at night after
That
Tarawih,
usual,
and I'd
that
go
Ramadan
and sit
gada.
with some people and reminisce.
Mm. Mm.
What was
Yeah, as
that?
long as you didn't get the shisha out.
You're getting all glitchy. Oh no, of course
Am I
not.
still
Can
glitchy
you
now?
imagine?
Hmm.
No, you're okay now. It is going and coming, but I think it should be all right. But just
Yeah.
rewinding a little bit, that whole discussion reminds me of what I was going to talk about briefly about this whole court thing that's happened, where someone has challenged their school about praying in school, and the
Yeah.
court has ruled against them. So it's in favour of the school not allowing children to pray there. It's a school, I think, in London. I haven't got too much. There we go. Michaela Community School. So the head teacher, Catherine Birbal Singh, she's the head teacher who basically ruled to the kids that they can't pray there. I think half of the school's population are Muslim.
Hmm.
So half of them are Muslim, and they were praying in like the break times in the playgrounds and stuff like that. Which I think, who are you harming? Like, kids do all sorts in the playground. If they're bowing and prostrating, who's that harming? You know. But whatever.
It made
It's
me
that whole
think of
French
the
secular argument, isn't it?
It
Go
made
for
me
it.
think of the that the people that are the most aggressive in enmity towards you are the Jews and the polytheists. Polytheists. How do you say that word?
Polytheists.
Yeah, like the non-Ahl al-Kitab. So I believe the head teacher who like had this strong opinion on this is she Hindu or Sikh? One of the two.
Oh, I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't even know that.
yeah. I saw like her name and I was like, yeah, that's one of those two. And I just thought of that A. I was like, yeah, they hate us hardcore.
Yeah. It does make me think because I can't, unfortunately, I guess I wasn't practicing at school. So I don't remember thinking about praying, and I don't remember anyone else doing so.
Yeah.
Um, and I must have not really started praying until I was 18, and by then I'd already left that kind of
Mm.
environment. So I am curious as to how people do go about it.
But bro, how is it like for me? That's what I'm saying. It's purely aggression against Islam and enmity because I don't understand how it's possible. How could even a court rule this? How is that possible according
So
to what I thought the UK laws were? Like, what's up
I
with that?
think it's kind of borrowing from the whole French thing of secularism. It's like
But
no
that's not a British thing.
symbols. The school is secular, so
But
I'm
that don't
just
exist
throwing.
in France, in Britain, bro.
I don't know. It's a ballpark thing, but maybe because that is the school, that is the ethos, that is what they've signed up for. I don't know. What I will say, however, is that obviously the news is messy regarding this. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to speak about this is because of people not verifying news. I've noticed it's a thematic thing. It's happening in the conflict in Gaza, the genocide in Gaza. It's happening in all sorts of walks of life, where things to do with Muslims, where a non-Muslim source or outlet, or even a Zionist outlet, will write something about Muslims or a Muslim country or a Muslim organization saying X, Y, Z. The Muslims will take that and run with it, say, "Oh, look, blah 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 blah." Then the actual subject, so either the Muslim country, the Muslim individual, the Muslim organization, will make a statement clarifying, proving or debunking the whole claim, and it's like, and then what the Muslim audience will do, instead of like admitting they're wrong, they'll do more dirt digging and try and find something else to deflect and find wrong with the individual. And this is a
Mm.
primary case. So one of the excuses that the head teacher had was that they went to speak. This is what they're saying. Actually, I'll read it verbatim. According to Michaela Community School Judgment Today, head teacher Catherine, whatever, I can't pronounce her name, Catherine said she spoke with the Imam at London Central Mosque, who agreed that Muslim pupils could make up prayers outside school later in the day, and offered to speak to any Muslim parents who blah blah blah. Okay, it cuts off. I can't read the rest because it's a screenshot.
Mm.
Right? There's a critic who's obviously quote tweeted that, and I'll say who reported that. Five Pillars UK reported that. Who,
Mm.
I think Dili Hussein is part of that and whatever. Um, Someone obviously has quote tweeted that saying, "Our Regis Park Mosque Imam advised the Tory government's darling to ban prayers. This mosque is working to undermine our community. We need to flood their lines again and call for a boycott of this mosque. And I want zero people praying behind the Imam who sold us out to Islamophobes." Great.
Mm.
So we're taking the source as the actual head teacher who's stopping keep people from praying. So we're going to take that careful woman's source, the oppressor's source information, and say, "Yep, look what
Mm.
they're saying." Okay. So I
Yeah.
didn't actually comment on this story at all. I didn't tweet about it. I didn't whatever. I just stayed away from it because I there's nothing to say. There is nothing to say. It is what it is. They've come out with
Mm.
this. So London, I believe it's the Regent Park Mosque, isn't it? London Central Mosque.
Yeah. Think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is because the picture looks like it is. They come out with a statement. Um, Sorry, I was all on WhatsApp, so I'm flicking through. So it's a big long statement, but essentially, um, the context they've given is that uh, London Central Mosque was not involved in and was not asked to be involved in the court case in any way. In terms of what they're referring to, or what may be misconstrued here, is that a parent of one of the pupils at Michaela School approached the London Central Mosque explaining that the head teacher was not allowing the children to pray. This was creating tension between the school and the community. The mosque decided to help and liaise with the school to find a solution on how the kids could successfully perform their prayers. And then it's bullet pointed. A meeting was held on the 12th of June 23 to try and solve the concerns of the parents. The head teacher said that she would never allow kids to pray at her school. London Central Mosque explained to the head teacher that Muslims need to pray in the allotted time of each prayer, and there would have to be a solution to allow the kids to pray.
Mm.
Insofar as the praying later is concerned, the London Central Mosque explained that in the summer, the time between Dhuhr and Asr is further apart. So the earlier prayer, in this case the Dhuhr one, can be done later, whereby the noon prayer could be delayed to the final prescribed time, and afternoon prayer advanced and performed at the beginning of its time. Essentially, you're praying them. You're being a bit flexible with when to pray them, but they're still being prayed in their allotted time.
Yeah.
Let's say Dhuhr ends at, I don't know, 3:30. Okay, you could still feasibly pray Dhuhr. I mean, Dhuhr at the moment doesn't end. Asr is at 4:50 here, right? So you've already left school by then. So technically, if you were really struggling, you could pray Dhuhr after school because you've still got time before Asr. Does that make sense? Oh, where have you gone? You still
Mm.
there? Does that make sense to me? Can you hear
Yeah.
me? Cool. So that was what was
Yes.
explained. The head teacher said that the kids could not pray during their break time. She said no room and no playground was available, and that the building was not originally designed to be a school. Oh, and that the building was not originally designed to be a school. I don't understand what they talk about there. Consequently, the corridors are narrow and there are no open spaces. I think not designed to be a mosque or not designed to be a prayer room. That's what they meant there. The head teacher said she would give permission for the kids to pray at the civic centre across the road. The London Central Mosque welcomed this as an overall solution, and that the kids would be able to successfully pray. So essentially, they've taken that and they've run with it. They've stated they've obviously given some sort of advice in terms of the flexibility of praying Dhuhr and Asr, especially in the summer, but no, they note that in the winter, this isn't a flexibility that is necessarily given because the prayers are a lot closer to each other. Allegedly, the head teacher has taken that and said, oh, they can just combine their prayers, see you later, bye-bye. You do it later, do it after school. And obviously, we've taken the source
Right.
as
Yeah.
the head teacher and run with it. Now, the critic earlier, I've just noticed on Twitter, they've seen that.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, that was my bad,
Yeah.
they've gone and done more digging, found something else to criticize the
Oh.
mosque for, completely unrelated to this, and said, oh, well, what about this? They do this, by the way, completely separate from this topic. They do this, by the way, or they're funding this, or they've sat with this, or whatever it is. We should harass them for that. It's just crazy, pathetic. It reminds me so much of that ayah in the Quran about, if a fast comes to you with news, fatabayyunu, you know what I mean? If somebody comes to you with any form of news, or especially if the person it's coming from is the oppressor in question, right? And I've seen so many articles in relation to other, in relation to others topics where it's like Jerusalem Post has said this, or Washington Post has said that, or this Zionist news platform has said this, and we just eat it up. We eat it up, especially if it's about Muslims or a negative aspect or something a Muslim has done. We eat it up, and we really shouldn't. We really need to move past it. But yeah. What are your thoughts,
I
bro?
think it's probably not a Muslim thing, to be fair, Yanni. Maybe just a little bit more than average. Maybe a little bit more than average, but it's not a Muslim thing. Of course, yeah, this is basic, and especially for a journalistic kind of thing. Like, obviously, for average people, they still should be smart with it. But if you're supposed to be like a journalist, then this is a key thing. This is like a blunder, Yanni, to not verify stuff. Yeah, so I think, look, bro, going forward, this is gonna destroy us because AI is gonna just make everything fake. Like, you'll see a video, like I saw that video of Trump. I don't know if you saw it, where Trump was at some sort of rally, and they were chanting like "Genocide Joe," and then he's like, "They're not wrong, they're not wrong," and I was like, oh, really? Like. Because that's kind of a big statement, because it's kind of like it's implying that he agrees with the concept that Biden's supporting a genocide, which means he's supporting the idea that Israel's committing genocide, right?
Right.
However, then someone said, did that actually happen? And I was like, yeah, you know what? That chant, which was in the video, could have been added afterwards. Forget deep fakes and AI. You don't even need that for this. You could just take an audio of people chanting "Genocide Joe," and then you get a thing where Trump is saying they're not wrong, and then you're done, right? And spread that around. So, I'm in that mindset still of, if I see a video, then it's real. But we should not be in that mindset, because anything can be faked. Anything can be faked. I saw a couple of weeks ago, like, a really good deep fake. I can't remember who it was of, but it was very, convincing. Very, very convincing. So we're going to get destroyed, bro, with this. We're going to get destroyed. Insert keyword, Dajjal, deep fake, this and that. So, yeah, we have to be careful. Obviously, bro, it leans into people's biases. So they see, confirmation bias, basically. You already believe something, so your mind is on the lookout for information that confirms what you already believe. So that's a standard bias that a lot of us have. I do find, though, bro, that, a lot of the things that people were saying were fake about Israel or about certain Arab governments, etc. Maybe the story is fake or it's not verified, but it doesn't really change much. Like, a lot of the time I've seen people debunking these stories, and I'm just like, Okay, so what? It doesn't make much difference about the overall picture, if you know what I mean. But yeah, of course, got to be smarter than this.
I think it goes beyond for me. Just like this, whether it's the Israeli sort of the Gaza genocide topic. It goes beyond. It goes for everything really, because as you said, if it confirms our biases anyway, well, we should be checking our biases because we are we are ordered to, in the sense of
Hmm.
where these news sources are coming from. We are ordered to
Ab-
verify news, and also
Absolutely.
there's a sanctity towards Muslims that we should have
Yes.
that should not be afforded to everybody else. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't understand how much you play into your enemy's hand by being part of the destabilization process anyway, right?
Hmm.
For example, and I think this is a key issue. Like, you're my Muslim brother, for example, okay, and it could be another one. It could be a day. It could be someone who's been exposed for something or whatever it is.
Hmm.
You jumping at the gun, or I'm jumping at the gun to kind of spread this in an effort of raising awareness, does more harm to the wider Muslim community, especially in the eyes of non-Muslims and whatever, and our integrity as a whole. Um, when actually we should be, as we are told, covering for people, covering for Muslims, advising Muslims in private, having uh, having some sort of sutra, having some sort of covering over the faults of men and women, Muslims in general, um, to kind of solidify that unity that we should have, the strength that we should have as an ummah. But what we
Yeah.
do is that we get excited when someone's getting exposed or picked apart from country to individual, from organization to whatever it is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
realizing that we're actually putting out our dirty laundry as a community, as an ummah, without
Hmm.
necessarily thinking of that in the wider context of Muslims either in the West or in the world, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
And
the key issue.
I think that is important. Like how others see us and see our mistakes out in the open. But I think just before that, what is more important is for us like to know that my Muslim brothers got me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're covering for me. They would protect me. When you see all these attacks going around, then you don't feel that sense of unity, brotherhood. Like you've got that support, and that's the first big loss. And then the second is that that picture we put out there that we're not unified, that we're not strong, that
Mm.
we're not this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like there was like one group, and I'll say the group. It was like the Salafi publications groups and the people
Yeah, yeah.
affiliated with
Oh,
them.
you could say
They were
that name all day, bro.
well. I'm just saying that they were seen as the people that engaged in refutation the most, whatever you feel about that. And you know what? I read some of their refutations, and I was like, oh, I can see how that could be, seen that way, or whatever it is. Okay,
Hmm.
that's not really the subject matter. What I'm saying is they were known for that the most. Okay, then there was people that were criticizing that. There were groups that were criticizing that. People, individuals, days, whatever, criticizing that. Fine. Those very people that were criticizing them have now started criticizing everyone else that might align with them, criticizing everyone else that is sympathetic to that, criticizing to anyone that then criticizes them, and they ended up being a mirror of that group. The
Hmm.
you know what was that famous Star Wars? There's a Star Wars quote where it's like, "Oh yeah, Obi-Wan says to Anakin like, you were meant to destroy the Sith, not join them." Right, or something like that.
Right.
Right,
Oh
and
no,
you end
I
up being
think
the
it's
very thing you swore to destroy, or something like that.
yeah, yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it from a superhero movie where I think it's one of those movies where it's like you either
What, you talk about the Batman one? You either die a hero or live long enough to see
oh,
yourself
there you
become a
go.
villain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Say it
yeah.
again. Say it again.
You either die a hero or live
Yeah.
long enough to see yourself become a villain.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
used to say that
yeah,
about the police, bro. I used to say,
yeah.
Muslims working in the police, you either quit like a hero, like you've helped people and whatever, or you stay in there long enough to basically lose yourself and become a villain, like lose your deen and lose your morals and whatever. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
there you go.
I've noticed like there was a group, like I said, the group was known for this attacking everybody, and then other people who held themselves separate from that very famous du'at, then ended up becoming that, then ended up doing that. And all of them, by the way, like every single one of them engages in it so much. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration. Loads of them engage in it so much. The famous du'at, the famous du'at that are out there, the YouTube, personalities. I find it so ironic in that regard because I don't think
Yeah.
they see it. I don't think a lot of people see that they are becoming what they said they shouldn't become, what they shouldn't
Yeah.
waste
Yeah.
their time.
Like if you
But anyway,
you need your own, so you need your own arguments. So like for example, they were putting out their refutations, and then maybe you don't agree with the contents of or the conclusion of those refutations, right? So that's one thing, your own arguments. But then you also need your own method or methodology. And if you're like what you're saying is that they ended up copying the methodology of those they're disagreeing with so strongly. And you need a principles based methodology. You need to say, no, regardless of what anyone else in the world is doing, regardless of what's trendy and what seems to work in, in the online world and stuff, no, what are our principles and the best, most effective method for achieving our objective? And if you don't have that, then you become a follower, and you follow people that maybe you were saying earlier you don't agree with. So I think the key word he used is people get excited, and
yeah,
excitement obviously refers to emotion, and of course it's natural to have emotion. But wallah, you see this with people all around the world, like you could say vulnerable communities, or like what's the word, immigrant communities, oppressed community, whatever you want to call it. It's this overly emotional approach to everything. And I'm using the word overly specifically, right? Because emotion has its place. But overly emotional, where you skip, like you're saying, skip the fact checking, you skip
yeah,
the process, you skip like due process, you skip, okay, this is the process that the Prophet ﷺ has given us, or the Quran has given us. You skip these things out of your excitement and emotion. So that is really the key here. That yeah, it's very simple, bro. Like, oh, the Imam did this. Okay, let me check. Let me ask the Imam. It's not even if you had to go to the masjid to ask the Imam, it wouldn't be that tough. If you think of the process given to us from the wahi, which is a big deal. If you think of the process given to us, and you think of the consequences of not following the process, or the consequences of getting it wrong, it's actually quite big for your akhirah. And beyond that within the dunya as well. So yeah, it takes effort, I suppose. that's the bottom line. It takes more effort.
Yeah.
So
It's a folder, bro. Absolute folder, really. I just find it. I guess we've all done it. I've done it. I know I've done it before, and maybe it's just come with age that I step back and see maybe those that
who
are
did
still
you try
younger
to
doing it.
cancel again? Was it the True Geordie guy?
Yeah, but he's a kafir, bro. I can cancel him. I cancel him. I don't care. I
I
can't
just
remember what it was
remember that
about.
you were saying that you thought it wasn't the best thing in the end.
I can't remember what it was. Was it something
I
to do
think
with
you might have made some
Gymshark or
comment
something?
about Muslims or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, he made some sort of comment, and then I was harassing Gymshark to cancel
You
his
see, we've
thing.
forgotten him. I've forgotten what he said already.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I know this is a bit of a segue, but because it was mentioned earlier about Islamophobia, right? What are your thoughts on the whole term? Because I'm starting to like fall out of love with it. Not that I was in love with it, but like the usage of it. I just feel like it's giving me anti-Semitism vibes. You know how anti-Semitism was used a lot?
Yeah,
Like,
it is used a lot. Yeah.
I think I could be completely off here. I could be completely off. All right. This could be a completely like wrong thing to think. Right. So bear with me. But some people don't like Islam. Okay.
Yeah.
And we know that. And we've known that since the dawn of time, since the children of Adam alayhi salam. Okay. People don't like the straight path. I get it. Is that inherently in like society? Is that wrong? I know it's wrong in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but is it
Yeah.
like unacceptable for people not to like Islam to the extent
Exactly.
that we have to label it and say, oh, they're being Islamophobic? Well, no, I
Yeah.
just don't like Islam. No. Well, you're being Islamophobic. We're going to slap you with that label now. You're an Islamophobe. You have to respect it and like it. Do you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say here? Like, I've
I
noticed
do.
we keep throwing the term Islamophobia. Oh, he's Islamophobic. She's Islamophobic. That politician is Islamophobic. To an extent now where it's beyond. They might not have made a statement against Muslim, like all Muslims are this. That's a bit,
Yeah.
you can argue that. But sometimes it's like they might not be a fan of a certain religious practice.
Yes.
And we're going, oh, you're Islamophobic. That's unacceptable. We need to get rid of their job or whatever. And
Yeah.
I feel like we're like sleepwalking into this kind of, you see what they're doing with anti-Semitism at the moment. We're like sleepwalking into that where we're trying to make Islamophobia as what today they make anti-Semitism, when actually even anti-Semitism now doesn't hold much weight because it's not really addressing. Like anti-Semitism and Islamophobia should be hating an individual for just them, without much action and evidence behind that. All right. If you look like a Muslim, I hate you. That's Islamophobia.
Okay. Generalization,
Yeah.
stereotype.
But saying like, I don't know, I don't like halal meat because they kill the animal in a certain way. If I was to say, how could you say that? That's Islamophobic, which people probably do. Then I feel like you've misused the term and you're now just, it's up to them whether they don't like it.
Yeah.
We don't have to become victims of that. What do you think?
Exactly.
What do you think?
Well, you know, anti-Semitism, this term has been very, very powerful, right? It's only in the recent few months where people have started to say, oh, it's been used for everything. It's losing its potency. But it has been for decades very, very powerful, alongside the other terms like homophobic and stuff like that. So strategically, these things have been used to the people that use them to very powerful effect. I don't know if we have used Islamophobic to good effect yet.
No.
And personally, I wouldn't recommend it going down that route, right?
Yeah.
Not just because it loses its power, as we're seeing with like anti-Semitism, but because also it just seems wrong. It just seems it's not within our worldview, I feel. But I'll try and break down why I think that. And this is like my unpolished kind of thinking, right? So like if we look at the term homophobia, I'm just looking at the definition of this. So it's saying the dislike of or prejudice against gay people. Okay. So the dislike of gay people, disliking gay people. Disliking gay people. So it's like, it's like just for who they are. But then I feel like prejudice is a completely separate thing. So the dislike is how you feel or think about a people, like a very generalized, like a general group. And then the prejudice is when you take action on that feeling against the law, you could say, or in a way that harms them, in a way that you treat them differently, right?
Yeah.
You treat them differently, but to an extent that it could harm them, right? So now let's take that definition and apply it to Muslims. So the dislike of Muslim people, is that like in and of itself, is that a problem? Is that something that we, in the context of the UK, for example, is that a problem? Like it's just at that level, if we're staying at that level, it's just a preference, it's just a feeling, it's just,
it's the discrimination that comes afterwards, oversteps its boundary. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the thing, and that's what you're talking about. If somebody just says, like, let's say even the prime minister, the this and that, if they don't like Muslims, it's like, I don't know, from my perspective, bro, like they don't have to like Muslims or even Islam. Like it's fine. It's up to
more
you.
Islam, isn't it? It's if a politician came out today and said, I don't like Islam, what would the Muslims say about that?
Yeah. Well, I guess, I said prime minister, but that was wrong to say, because the prime minister saying something publicly is an act of prejudice in and of itself because of its, consequences. But okay, if we just talk about average person, I'm just at this first stage. If they dislike Muslims or even Islam, that is, for me, it's completely fine. It's not taking away anyone's rights. I'm talking about the UK context, right, where there's supposed to be like this tolerance and freedom of religion and beliefs and all that. It's fine. It's completely fine. But now, the prejudice part, I suppose there's details to prejudice in it. It's like, I don't know, like you could say, okay, I don't want to hire someone who's Muslim because I don't like Muslims. Okay, now this is prejudice, but that's illegal, isn't it? So you could say you don't need this term Islamophobia in that case because they're just being discriminatory in terms of hiring, which is already illegal. You could say, okay, it's specifically because Muslim. Okay, that's just adding detail to it, but it's already illegal. What other forms of prejudice are there that are not so clearly cut illegal? Like,
okay, what about what we've got now? What we were talking about in terms of the prayer ban, right?
yeah,
Now, some people would say she's Islamophobic for that because it's clearly singling out Muslims. Okay. On the flip side, and I'm not trying to defend her, I'm just having a discourse about Islamophobia
yeah,
as a term. Others, we haven't got any evidence of anyone else saying that they want to pray there. Would that rule carry over to, I don't know, let's say a Jewish person wanting to pray there? It's a hypothetical at the moment. We don't know. Okay. And if that is a policy implemented by the school in an effort to be secular,
yeah.
at least that's what they're claiming, then is it Islamophobic? I
No,
don't
you're
think
saying
so.
because it's implemented against everyone equally.
Yes, it's
But bro, like, just like it could apply to everyone of any religion who wants to pray, but it's not being applied to atheists or agnostics, for example, and that is discriminatory, isn't it? It's discriminatory. You're discriminating against religious people versus non-religious people, right? So there is a discrimination there. But the question for me is, does the UK like law allow for this? Because we can, obviously I don't agree with the UK law and where it comes from.
of course,
and all that. But like, that's the game you're playing if you're agreeing to live in the UK, right? Like, what can 100%. You do about? Of course, you can always fight back against interpretations of the law. Is it? But you're basically saying like it comes down to whether it was specifically against Muslims or not. But yeah, what I'm saying is, okay, let's say it's against Muslims and Jews and Christians. Yeah. It's still against us. It's still a form of prejudice or discrimination.
I mean, I think it's taking secularism as the default. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think,
which, as far as I know, that's not the policy of the UK in general. The policy of the UK is not that you're not allowed religion. It's just like everyone just has to tolerate each other's religion within the law, kind of thing. Basically, that's what I understand. But now I'm thinking about it. I think the time where I don't agree with this term Islamophobia is just when somebody shows dislike for Islam or Muslims, like just showing that dislike, expressing that dislike with no intention of further consequences beyond that. Like, I think if you have a problem with that, then you just lack confidence in your religion and the fact that it's the truth and the fact that it's, came to reach every home and to, dominate over all other ways of life and all of that. If you lack confidence to the level where someone just talking rubbish affects you or insults you that much, then you probably just need thicker skin. Of course, in a Muslim context, like in a Muslim country, then that cannot be tolerated whatsoever. Somebody showing dislike towards Islam, for example.
Of course. I feel like we because a lot of Muslims shy away from the usage of the word kuffar or kafir, they've replaced it with a more palatable word, which is Islamophobia, or they're Islamophobic. Because at the end of the day, if the message of Islam has come to someone and they refuse to accept it, right, or they shun it or whatever, then by definition they've become a kafir. They don't want to hear it. They don't want anything to do with it. Okay, the message has come. They don't accept it. They don't believe in it. All right.
Well, that might even be another category. Like, you have people that are just not Muslim, like I don't know, a Christian in Venezuela. Maybe they've half heard of Islam. That person is also a kafir. But then the person who has been brought the proofs and been invited to Islam and they reject it, that's another category. And then the one who's actively an enemy towards Islam is even another category, isn't it?
But they don't
So
have the
yeah, like
guts to use it
yeah,
in an
yeah,
everyday context because
yeah,
a lot of people just feel like it's loaded. Like we use
yeah,
non-Muslim all the time, and maybe
mm,
because people do draw a distinction in their heads between someone who is like received the message, doesn't want anything to do with it, and someone who isn't really familiar with Islam enough to put that label on them, right?
yeah,
So, but if someone is Islamophobic, allegedly, because they know
mm,
enough about Islam to decide they don't want it and are actively against it, then just
mm,
call them a kafir and be done with it. But I suppose they use Islamophobia as a term to garner sympathy from those that are sympathetic towards Islam, who are also
yeah,
probably
yeah.
kafir anyway.
I mean, it's kind of fair enough in that. It's kind of fair enough in that context.
Yeah,
Like for I in my head, I've got two categories. I've got kafir, vanilla kafir, and I've
vanilla.
got like enemy of Islam. Enemy of Islam is someone who takes proactive steps to, you know, to you know, harm Muslims, the spread of Islam, stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's now an enemy of Islam. And then the other people who don't take those steps, they're just normal kuffar, and they could even a person who just doesn't like Islam and they don't do much about it, I might even just put them in that first category, just general
yeah,
kafir, yani.
yeah,
So I think, yeah, my issue with it is when it's used for people who are literally just don't really agree with Islam. You know, so if
yeah,
someone says, oh, you know, Mohamed married a 9-year-old, mate, yeah,
yeah,
that person is not Islamophobic. They just don't agree with that according to their worldview that they've been fed. They don't agree with it.
yeah,
Yani,
exactly. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Allah yahdik, yani, what can I say?
yeah.
But a lot of people might take that and say, oh, he's Islamophobic. But bro, like basically, some people, their definition of not being Islamophobic is being Muslim, right? It's
Yeah,
like if I agreed with everything in Islam, I'd be Muslim, wouldn't I? So,
yeah, yeah,
you know, the standard for which they want everyone to just love Islam is too high, because if they were at that level, they'd be Muslim anyway.
100%.
So it probably, if they, you know how I said I've got this two groups, I've got kafir and enemy of Islam.
Yeah,
If they're using Islamophobe synonymously with enemy of Islam, then I'll be like, okay, I actually could,
yeah.
I could kind of agree with that. I could maybe get on board with that.
Yeah, and there's like tropes that are not even tropes actually. Just like let's say the discourse around Asian grooming gangs, linking that to Islam, and saying that
Mm,
all these Muslims are groomers and whatever. Yeah, that's
mm,
Islamophobic in the sense that you're trying to stain a whole population of people.
exactly.
Although the only
Yes.
reason why I don't like using the term Islamophobic, even for that, and I'd rather just use
Yeah.
prejudice, right?
Mm,
Is because you are also then linking it to Islam. You are saying that they've got a phobia of Islam or they've got an aversion to Islam instead
mm.
of saying that they're actually spreading whatever. Like I get it, but
Right.
terming
They're general shouldn't be generalizing,
yeah, it's
basically.
because of the term. Even though it might
Mm,
mean something, it's like the
yeah.
anti-Semitism thing, right? When you're saying
Mm,
the difference with anti-Semitism is that people don't necessarily say anti-Jewishness or anti-Semitism is a bit detached from Judaism, verbally even speaking.
mm.
But Islamophobia has Islam in the name. So people, when you
Right.
say Islamophobia, it's almost
Mm,
like you're saying you've got no right to not like Islam. When actually, what you're
mm,
trying to say is that isn't Islamic. That isn't part of Islam. Don't lie about that. Don't spread falsities about Islam. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
mm.
But
Yeah.
if I was to say something is anti-Jewish, it's almost like I'm saying, "Hey, that's part of Judaism. Don't say that. Don't not like that.
Right.
Don't hate that." When
Right.
actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a different. It's just. I think it's
Yeah.
maybe more to do with
So maybe
language,
like the term like stereotype or generalization is better
prejudice,
in
or
that
whatever. Yeah, or
case. Yeah.
yeah, or racist, for example. Even you've got something against
Yeah.
someone's race or whatever, because everybody knows
Yeah.
that race is a race. It's not necessarily associated with a behavior that you can say
Yeah.
is part or parcel of that race, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
this is the other thing with Islamophobia or Islam is it's not a race. It's something you actually choose.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So a lot of the time people like, you know, you can't be prejudiced against whatever someone who's Jewish because that's just who they are. And like they didn't do anything to cause you to be prejudice against them or to mistreat them or whatever. But with Islam, it's like, no, this is like a belief system. This is something I choose to believe, I follow. I take actions based on my beliefs. I pray, I do this and that. So it is a little bit different in that sense, isn't it? Because it's like, yeah, Islam can be challenged. You can challenge it. You can't beat it, but you can challenge it, which is fine.
Also, yeah.
So it's a little bit different in that sense as well.
I could be way off and whatever. I think it's just worth discussing and thinking about. Only because the road this leads to is the overuse of the word, the loss of meaning for the word, and the victimhood that it gives somebody or gives a Muslim.
Yeah, that's the main problem, probably.
It's like they're Islamophobic.
The meander you have of it.
Shut down of that conversation. That conversation is out the window. It doesn't matter what the discussion is. They're not allowed to say or think anything like that because it's Islamophobic. Just as the way anti-Semitism is used, just as the way homophobia is used, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest though, bro, the argument that I think that would be brought against me and you is there is a very thin line of where just disliking a religion, disliking beliefs, disliking people of a religion turns into prejudice and action,
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
So it's like I said, if a prime minister says something bad about, I don't know, zakah, let's just say, then even though that's just talking and that's just sharing his opinion, it could lead to then prejudice, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So I do admit that there's a bit of a gray area there, but it's just like, maybe it's just one of those things you just have to be nuanced about it and realize that no, not everyone is going to like Islam, agree with Islam. And especially in the context of the UK, like people are going to challenge it, but that's good. Like that's a chance to give da'wah and to push back against false assumptions about it. And that, bro, that's what you sign up for when you're living as a minority with kuffar. Like what do you, what can you really do? You don't want to become that, like, the whole anti-Semitism thing where it's like everyone like dislikes you, but the law is like protecting you, or like this word, this taboo thing is protecting you. No, it's better to have it in the open a bit, and I think be able to challenge it.
It's that thing that it pushes people into an aura of immunity. They're not allowed to be criticized whatsoever because we can just slap them with this label, and that could happen with Islamophobia. I'm sure there are people, 100%. I'm sure there are Muslims that will use that term in a sinister way to try and get privileges in society, whatever it might be. In the same way anti-Semitism is used, right? I remember there was accusations and stuff of people faking, and I'm not saying, obviously this rarely happens, okay? Rarely happens. But it has happened before where people will fake, whether it's anti-Semitic attacks or Islamophobic attacks or whatever, to garner some sort of sympathy or whatever it is, or to put someone in a difficult way. And the danger with that is that it can be weaponized, basically. That's what the core of what we're saying is. Islamophobia as a term could be weaponized in a way one day where we are actually doing ourselves. We are basically doing what the Zionists are doing to themselves now. We don't want to do that because we'll end up being, we're undermining the Ummah and undermining the Muslim community in the West. Because everything's Islamophobic. I can't, and you've seen it sometimes. I was on during Ramadan, there was a viral video, perfect example. Viral video, Muslim is recording on his phone on the bus, and there's a non-Muslim woman eating a sandwich. And he's like, "Can you not eat, please? Because I'm fasting." And she's like, "I don't care if you're fasting. It's nothing to do with me." And he's like, "Oh, but it's Ramadan and blah, blah, blah." He could be taking the piss. He could be having a joke. It could just be banter. Or it could be legitimate. But what does that look like to the population? What does that look like to the non-Muslims that live in here, the neighbours that we have to, they're taking over our country, blah. Why would you do that? You might as well have pointed the camera and said, "Oh, you're Islamophobic for eating in front of me. It's Ramadan."
Yeah.
Why would you film her? Because you're trying to portray this woman as someone who doesn't like Islam, doesn't respect Ramadan.
Yeah.
And that is what we're sleepwalking into, that kind of behavior.
Yeah, that's a good example. Exactly. We don't want none of that.
Absolutely.
That's, I mean, it's obviously like immature or not well thought out.
Of course.
But like also, if they were doing it seriously, it's just very entitled. It's like, maybe I don't know. It doesn't sound serious,
Well, the
actually.
woman was getting
But,
angry. Like, she was like, I don't care. Like, why'd you leave your house? It's
well,
nothing
she's
to do
getting
with me.
angry because someone's filming
Yeah, of
her and
course.
like challenging her.
But there was
Bro,
another
I
video.
would get mad.
There was another video similar to that one,
Yeah,
but these look like work colleagues. And he was in like a staff
yeah,
room. The non-Muslim guy was eating his. He was about to eat his lunch, and then a lot of Muslims, you
yeah,
can hear them like joking, saying, "Oh, how could you, like, it's Ramadan, you should be fasting." And the guy felt bad, and he was like, "Oh, I can't eat this now." Like, and they all look like colleagues, and they were laughing about it. One of them was saying, "Nah, don't worry, just eat, just eat." That was taken by a lot of right-wing, like EDL style Britain First kind of personalities on Twitter, and run with, look, oh,
right,
this guy was forced, and they're taking over our country, and they're shaming him for eating, and who cares about
right.
Ramadan? And it's that thing again where, yes, this context I think was very much a joke between colleagues, but they still
Yeah,
hijacked it and took it as a we're trying to impose Islam by
yeah,
force kind of thing, right? It's just
yeah, yeah.
it's about being wise about this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Mm.
You know, this discussion reminded me of that ayah, Surah Al-An'am. وكذلك جعلنا لكل نبي عدوا شياطين الإنس والجن يوحي بعضهم إلى بعض زخرف القول غرورا ولو شاء ربك ما فعلوه فذرهم وما يفترون. So the translation is, and thus we have made for every prophet an enemy, devils from mankind and jinn, inspiring one another decorative speech in delusion. But if your Lord had willed, they would not have done it. So leave them and that which they invent. So I'm just highlighting this because Allah is saying that we made an enemy for every prophet, right? And you know, the scholars take this to say that when you're doing da'wah, you're going to get enemies. You're going to get this kind of pushback. You're going to get people that hate you. You're going to get Islamophobes, basically,
Yeah.
right? So it's like part of life, yani, and part of what, as Muslims, I feel very much that the Quran and Sunnah, they prepare us for this. You know, the whole thing of like, tuba lil ghuraba, you know, be stranger, and all of this stuff. In the end times, this will happen and this will happen. And likewise here, Allah is saying that every prophet has an enemy, has enemies. And Allah says even here, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ مَا فَعَلُوهُ. And if it was, if Allah willed, then He wouldn't have made them like this. He wouldn't have done it. But He has a reason for doing it. So, yeah. And like, you know, sometimes, bro, this is the politically correct climate that is prevalent in, you know, the UK, US, etc., which is like, you'll find this innocent, like, white, non-Muslim guy, and he'll just be like, find something weird about Islam, and he'll feel like he can't question it. He can't ask about it even. Like, it actually becomes anti-da'wah. Like, the guy's wondering, like, what's this about cutting hands off, for example?
Yep.
What's that all about?
Yep.
But he feels like if he asks that question
It's finished.
innocently,
He's done.
yeah, like, this is completely anti-da'wah. This is anti the objective, one of the main objectives.
Yeah.
And if you want to say, no, I'm living in the UK, I'm living in the West amongst non-Muslims, well, you'd better invite them to Islam then. And how do you invite them
But the Muslim,
if they can't question?
the Muslim that is in there, you know, the colleague or whatever, okay, a lot of the time, obviously, I'm not saying most of the time, but a lot of the time, they are not prepared for those conversations, that they will default to offense. They will default to, how could you say that? Why are you asking me about that? Whatever. If it's a question about cutting off hands, right? If someone's to ask me or you, alhamdulillah, you know, I'm not saying it's about knowledge or whatever, but I'm familiar with what that's about to an extent that I could say, okay, corporal punishment, whatever. It's, you know, we are going to understand that conversation. But there are Muslims out there that aren't familiar with that, that will see that as a stereotypical, almost like a slur or something that they've dragged out. Say, how could you ask me about that? What do you think we all cut hands off? What are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. Go report that to the manager, equality and diversity, human resources. The guy's done. Right? And we don't want to be those people. Don't want to be those people.
Yeah, we actually want to invite questions.
Absolutely.
Like, how good is it, bro, when someone asks you a question about Islam versus you having to go to people to tell them about Islam?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like when they're coming asking, they're curious. That's the best, bro.
100%. 100%.
That's the best. And yeah, but again, you're right. It might come down to knowledge. It might come down to confidence of your own religion. Maybe all this Islamophobia labeling, it's coming from people's insecurity about their own iman and their own conviction in their religion. Yani.
Yeah.
So that's definitely part of it. I'm not going to say all of it, but it's part of it. Yani. So that's something to reflect upon.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, just to clarify, I guess, closing top point on this, I'm sure most people that are labelled Islamophobic are Islamophobic. That's not what we're saying here.
Mm,
It's just
mm,
that, let's not run to that all the time without really thinking about what we're saying and the consequences of using that label all the time. Because it's very easy, isn't it?
yeah.
And that's what we can see that from the Zionists right now, where
Mm,
they relied all these years on using anti-Semitism as a defense to shut down any criticism of Israel specifically,
mm. Yes,
to the
exactly.
extent now where they've undermined themselves because people have realized that you can't have a normal conversation because all eyes are on us and the evidence is stacked against us, we're going to slap you with
Mm,
anti-Semitism. I mean, they did it to the UN. They said, "Oh, the UN is anti-Semitic."
yeah, yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know. If Islamophobia had that kind of weight, we'd say, well, the genocide on Gaza is Islamophobic, but it doesn't have that weight.
Mm,
So maybe there is
mm,
some weight we could push towards Islamophobia, couldn't we? Lower.
mm.
Anyway.
Yeah. I got one more topic before we end, which is this is not like I'm going to mention names and stuff, but that's not to attack them. It's just to bring up the topic and discuss it.
You
So
dangerous guy.
there's something that I just was still thinking about in Ramadan, which is I saw a crowdfunding campaign went up, and it was for this. I think it was basically like Audible for Muslims.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, Yasser Qadi was like part of it, promoting it.
Right.
And Dr. Salah, who's actually like, I know him personally and stuff.
I remember
so,
him.
It's all good. Yeah. Salah Sharif. So, if I could just bring it up, actually, that would be better. But this was basically the crowdfunding campaign. It was put together. It was on Launch Good, and it's probably still on Launch Good. And I just thought it was interesting the line between crowdfunding a business and charity for a cause,
Right.
right? So, for example, on Launch Good, most people have it in their mind that I'm going on Launch Good to give charity. That's what people have been
Yeah.
like, they're used to in their heads.
Yeah.
I haven't found the campaign. Yeah, so that's what they're used to in their heads. However, it's not just for that. It's crowdfunding anything. It could be a business. I used it for my book when I was putting my book, The Shepherd's Way, out there. I used it to raise funds for my thing. However, there are two distinct ways of going about this. And like outside of the Muslim context, there is, I don't know, there's like GoFundMe and probably other charity crowdfunding things. And then there is Kickstarter, which is for businesses and products. Okay. So when I go to Kickstarter and I pledge money, 90% of the time, I'm actually getting something in return. I'm getting a product, and I'm actually usually getting the product at a discount of what it's going to retail for. Yeah.
Right.
On the other hand, if I go to a charity one, I'm just helping someone out. I'm getting nothing in return. If I'm Muslim, I've got the intention of ajr and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, I thought this campaign, it was a bit blurry.
Oh.
Because it was like you're supporting a business to start, you're funding a business, but you're actually getting nothing in return. Okay. And that's why I want to find it and build it up. But you get the concept, right? Like, what do you think about that? Is that like an issue or?
So could they? I don't know what all the audiobooks are like in terms of creating them, but could they just not upload audiobooks onto another audiobook platform? Why does it have to be a Muslim one specifically? Is Audible strict, for example, on that?
So I think potentially they were taking it upon themselves to get all of the books produced, like actually record them, produce them, maybe get the rights to them, stuff like that as well.
They could do that anyway. It's the platform that they're raising money for, isn't it?
Yeah, why do they need the platform? Yeah.
Why would you need a separate platform? Because if you go to Audible or any other audiobook place, they've got all sorts of genres, religious books and non-religious books and sci-fi and this and that. And technically, Islamic books are just another genre. And it won't stop at Islamic books. Because let's say this did exist. let's say, okay,
Yeah.
you've got, I don't know, Sahih Bukhari, for example. Maybe that's
Mm.
not a good example.
Hmm.
But, Riyadh al-Salihin, I don't know.
That'll be very long.
Kitab
Yeah.
al-Tawheed, whatever. And then one day they're going to be
Yeah.
like, oh, let's put a Sirah book in there, which probably is one of the
Yeah.
ones to start. Well, then you're getting into history territory. Oh, actually, let's put the
Yeah.
biography of Salah ad-Din. Then your history. You're not really, it's Muslim history, but you know, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily part and
Yeah.
parcel of. And then you might expand it to more. Oh, Malcolm X. Oh, whatever. Do you
Mm.
understand? So
Yeah.
I get it and I respect it, but there's an infrastructure already out there for audio. So I'd just be curious as to why you couldn't. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm
Yeah.
just curious
Now
as to
here,
why
I've
you
got the
couldn't just
page
do that.
now. I've got the page up. So they actually only raised 40K out of the 100K goal,
Oh, okay.
which is quite little considering Yasser Qadi was promoting it. I don't know how much he promoted on his own
Right.
socials. Maybe that was the reason. But anyway, okay. So they said that picture the Grand Library of Baghdad or the Great Library of Alexandria, global hubs of knowledge. We want to create a centralized platform for all Islamic audiobooks. Instead of binging on social media, we can fill our daily commutes or chores or family time with Islamic knowledge, blah, blah, blah. And they're saying, in a world of censorship and global agendas, we firmly believe that Islamic knowledge should not be restricted or suppressed. The only way to achieve this freedom is to create our own platforms. So that kind of answers your question,
Yeah,
I
I guess so.
suppose. We need your support to build a fully fledged mobile app with bespoke features. We want to honor our sacred tradition, so the app should be as high quality as the knowledge it is hosting. And then they said, where will your money go? They said for building the app, so that means hiring developers, programmers, designers, and recording professional audiobooks. So this means hiring narrators, sound engineers, etc.
Okay.
They got a big team for such a new thing. They got like CEO and COO and CTO and audiobook production manager. But anyway, it's pretty cool. But like, yes, so now you know that context. Yeah, let me just say one thing first. So, the pledge amounts, yeah? So again, on Kickstarter, it's usually give £100, get one of these products that we're producing. So the version for this would be like, pledge £20, get one audiobook when we launch, right? Pledge £100, get 5 credits for audiobooks. That's usually how
Yeah.
Kickstarter does it, how business
Yeah,
ones
that's
do it.
how.
Here, it's like, give £18, every donation helps us to get to our goal.
No.
Give £25, support us in our goal, may Allah reward you. £100,
No.
these valuable donations add up, take us closer to our goal. So at what point do I get something?
don't.
Because I'm supporting a business in the end, right?
Yeah, I disagree with that. Because once you've recorded it, it's a
Yeah.
digital product. You're selling just that. You're selling the same
cash.
copy again and again.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
digital product.
Yeah.
So really, it shouldn't
Absolutely.
really bother you to give out credits for books because
Yeah.
you are going to make that money. You're not, running out and have to print more or record again or whatever. It's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
As long as you don't delete the file and have to
Yeah.
record it again.
Yeah.
So I think I'm sure they've considered it and they've got their own reasons for not doing that. But
Yeah.
yeah. Although, look, I think it's beneficial for content creators in the sense that people that modern day scholars and shuyukh that write books as well. It'd be very beneficial for them to have a platform like this. Also, it gives another avenue of monetization because not only do you have, like I listen to audiobooks sometimes, they have adverts in them. Okay, you could feasibly, if you were to throw it on YouTube or throw it on, you couldn't really touch the ads there because of the conversation about ad revenue and all
Yeah.
that stuff. But on a Muslim-owned
Yeah.
platform, yeah, I guess I am always pro Muslim platforms, whether it's audiobook, whether it's a Muslim YouTube or a Muslim Twitter or a Muslim
Yeah.
whatever. Yes, let's do that. Let's
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
I'd be interested. So they've got the 40. Are they continuing or were they?
Is it still open? No, it's closed.
So maybe they've got enough for that. I think they could. I'm sure they could make the rest back.
They're still going to need money. But I think what they're saying is they're going to spend 100K to just make the app and probably a few of the audiobooks.
I think you'd be surprised
So,
how much an app costs. I mean, remember we spoke to Asa about Qur'ani, and I can't remember the
Yeah, of
number,
course.
and that seemed like quite a lot.
To do it, Yeah, I think he said he spent, it was somewhere between 30 and 50K to do it. But my issue is not with that whatsoever, bro. Like, I actually think it's a good idea. From a business perspective, I think it's a bit worrying that, they didn't reach the full goal. I do think you have to do a lot of work to get people who consume zero Islamic knowledge, zero Islamic books, and get those people interested enough to sign up for this and pay for it.
Yeah.
That's probably where a lot of the work is, because if you're only going after people who are already into it
Yeah.
and you're charging like £10 a month, then I don't think it will add up to enough potentially to be a real business. But anyway, that's just my business analysis. I think, like I said, I put my project on Launch Good, and I was like, yeah, give me money and I'll give you a book in return. I specifically didn't want to do it like a charity thing.
Yeah.
Keep in mind though, I did do the marketing messaging as like, support this project, it needs to be out there. I did say that.
Yeah.
And I even did, like, the book cost me, I don't know, like, if you take into consideration the editing help I got and the designer and the printing, like maybe a book cost me £6, who knows?
Yeah.
But I was asking for, I can't remember now, but maybe £15.
Yeah.
Because I was like, partly you're getting the book and partly you're supporting this project, and it's kind of like that. But I really didn't want it to seem like you're doing charity here.
Yeah.
But I just thought this project was blurring the lines, and I disagree with this. I think if they just did it where, for example, £25, even if £25 gives you one audiobook credit only, yeah, so it's a bit overpriced, but again, it's because we're supporting a good platform. That's fine.
Yeah.
But in this case, they're starting a business with 40K pounds of someone else's money. I mean, I have no doubt the people that donate, they had good intentions, so Allah will reward them for that.
Yeah, but I suppose it's.
But I just think it's really weird to mix charity and
pivoted
business
themselves. They've positioned themselves as sharing Islamic knowledge, Islamic books. So in that respect, I don't think it's that questionable really to position it as a charitable endeavor. I don't really think that's an issue.
But it's not charitable. Like, the guys who are starting this will be making money off it, and they will get profits out of it.
True. I think when I say charity, it's more about the good deeds that you're potentially getting for giving people access.
but I could get good deeds from buying from anywhere,
from watching
bro.
a YouTube video. From watching a YouTube thing,
like watching the ads on a YouTube video, or buying a miswak from someone, or not even a miswak, from going to what's like a Muslim-owned burger place in London or whatever, yeah. I could get edged because I'm like, I want to specifically go to this guy to support him because he's a Muslim, or because he doesn't put music.
You're right actually, because if it was free, if it was like, okay, let's say, have I got any books here? I left all my books at my mum's house. I'm trying to think of a book. I don't know. Inner Dimensions of Prayer. Okay, that's a book by, isn't it Ibn al-Qayyim or Ibn Taymiyyah? I can't remember. It's translated obviously into English.
Maybe Ibn al-Qayyim.
I think it's Ibn al-Qayyim, and it's translated into English, right? So if I was to say, Amin, I'm gonna record my voice narrating this entire book, okay?
Yeah.
But I need equipment and whatever to do it. Can we all get together, put some money in, and I'll do it? Sweet. You've done it. I've recorded it. I put it out there for the masses. We all get rewards. That's one scenario where we can be like, that was great charity.
Like, you're donating your time and your voice and all of that, and I'm donating money, and
I need the money for just to get it done, and I need the money to cover the costs. However, if I say, Amin, give me the money to do this, I'm gonna put it out there. Sweet. I launch it, £15 recording. Where does that money go? It doesn't go back to you who donated. It goes to my pocket. Okay, exactly. So when we put it on paper like that, that is somewhat interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal. I just thought it's interesting discussion to have.
It's a messaging thing, isn't it? Kickstarter is, business, and I come across a lot of Kickstarter stuff in the video game industry, and the people that make YouTube videos, they want to make a movie or make a short film or whatever. They put it out there, but ultimately you're helping people set up a business. Interesting. Didn't think of that. at first value. But when I put it into that context, I was like, oh.
Maybe we're being Islamophobic now.
Maybe we are. Would I like? Do you know what more interests me more? I'll be honest with you. Is that content of that app? Okay, because
Yeah.
YouTube is like the Wild West with respect to Islamic
Okay.
knowledge. Like a Shi'i can put it in there, a Qadiani can put it on
Yeah.
there, Ahl Sunnah can put it on there, Sufi can put it on there, and it's
Yeah.
all there for anyone to pick and choose. But when there's a Muslim
Yeah.
organization owning the app, do they
Yeah.
like where's the window here? Where are the goalposts? Because
Yeah.
if someone, okay, I can imagine hypothetically that there might be some Sunni Muslims out there that will say, yeah, we can have this book from, I don't know, particular Shia.
Watch the words that come out your
Well,
mouth.
you know, a particular Shia school of thought or whatever. I wouldn't even say that.
Okay. Yeah.
We could have that.
Yeah.
Not the like really
Yeah.
like extreme stuff, but oh, this guy, he's okay. All right. Even
Yeah.
though I wouldn't accept that personally, but I'm sure there's some people in a wide organization that might have a broader, you know, there's going to be variations on people's allowances for different views.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But then, like, let's say Ahmadi people consider themselves Muslim, and they will say, "Oh, we want this book in here," and it's like, no, right? Like, how do you send that
Yeah.
messaging over? What is that, and where does that fit with like regulations in terms of laws and stuff that predominantly you're still under the grip of the laws of whatever country they're from, whether it's America, whether it's, you know, could there be a case against you for discriminating against people for not having like, what do you put in your terms and conditions for acceptable books that can go on here, or is it only stuff that they themselves produce? And I think that's probably what it is, isn't it? It's going to be always produced by them as opposed to people submitting stuff.
Yeah, I think that is what it looks like. They're going to produce it only.
Yeah.
But yeah, how does Audible decide, for example? Maybe do they just follow the laws of whatever country, or do they probably have policies beyond just the laws? They probably have certain.
They'll just piggyback on whatever existing laws exist for books in general. For, you know, they're not going to have Mein Kampf on there.
They might have further rules though, I believe. Like just how Facebook doesn't allow you to, I don't know, spread hate, for example. Yeah. Which might be legal technically, but they don't allow it on their platform. So how do they get away with that, considering free speech and this and that? I don't know. But I guess the same could apply to this platform without considering it to be illegal or against free speech. Also, you could just get away from that by like registering the company in a, Hong Kong or something.
I suppose that's the thing that, the production of it is. It's just that Apple can just shut it down on the App Store and Google shut it down, and then you kind of shot yourself in the foot.
It can, yeah. But what can you do? I mean, you can, on Android, I believe, you can get apps from outside of the App Store.
Well, if you're going to, look, I thought about that because I've done that with some stuff. But if you're going to do that, you might as well get a third-party audiobook player, because that's what I've got. You know, I stopped using Audible. I found a third-party audiobook player. I get an audiobook file. I put it in there, and it works like a dream. You know.
What about piracy with those files?
But I'm saying, like, if you're going to get, if people are getting pushed to an extent where they can't even use the platform, then they will find alternative means. You know. And that's the thing. Piracy is rife, so someone will just pirate it and put it out there. It just end up on YouTube 24 hours, whatever book you put out. In terms of the Islamic one, because people will say, 100%, more so with Islamic books, because they will say, oh, the knowledge is the right of the believer, and we're going to put it out there regardless of how much effort people have gone in, you know. So the argument earlier we said about charitable endeavors or whatever, people will take that and say, why is there a paywall behind this? This isn't your book. This is Ibn Taymiyyah's book. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It reminds me of old DVDs.
Obviously, that's simple to... You can easily counter that because Ibn Taymiyyah's book is written and it's in Arabic. So, of course, and also it's written so somebody paid to print it. So, in terms of Ibn Taymiyyah's original work, well, good luck going and getting access to that, right? If you want his work but printed, a new version, then you're going to pay for somebody to print that. If you want the audio version, then you're going to pay for someone to read that. If you want the translated and audio version, then you're paying for someone to translate it and record it. So Yeah, there's always a service that people are adding. So they're not hiding away the knowledge,
Yeah.
you know. Hiding away the knowledge is getting Ibn Taymiyyah's book, like the original like manuscript, and then not allowing anyone to get that.
Absolutely. Well, I've at least been overly critical for no reason, just because I thought let's just be critical.
Make it spicy.
Make it spicy. Why not? But yeah, they can hire us to do the readouts, can't they? We're pretty professional speakers.
Yeah, we're seasoned.
We're seasoned. People have said we should do audiobooks. You know,
Yeah.
somebody said, someone wrote a comment or a review of this podcast once and said, it's very tame or it's very stale, but I still listen to it every week. Very mellow. Just put it on in the background. But yeah, yeah. It's because we don't get into the spicy stuff too much. The breaking news. What do you think about this scandal? I mean,
well, not last episode, 2 episodes ago, you didn't want to publish it because you said, "Oh, it's too political or controversial." I can't remember.
It's not that. It's that half-baked ideas don't really benefit anyone. And a lot of it was kind of half-baked in the moment. And if I'm going to put out a thesis like that, I really need strong evidence and strong like examples to kind of articulate what I'm trying to say instead of just vibes. It's like, oh, Muslim governments are getting criticized too much. What? How? It's just a vibe I'm getting.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. But anyway, went out there. All right. Cool.
All right. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Shadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum. See you next episode.